Anderson's tool shed? Did you see his tool in there? No.
When it comes to 90s nostalgia, Beavis and Butt-Head might just be the strangest and most well-remembered shared experience on television. Whether we were directly quoting the great Cornholio,
I am Cornholio. I need TV for my bunghole.
or just conducting our own couchside MTV commentary, this oddball adult animation series became a cultural juggernaut that no one could ignore. But after an original run of 7 seasons and even a blockbuster feature film, America's favorite brainless rockers suddenly disappeared. And despite resurfacing in an all-too-familiar reboot, the Slackers classic never quite rose to the same prominence. And in the words of Butthead himself,
This sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks.
before Beavis and Butt-Head debuted its first season on MTV in 1993, hardcore fans of the network were already well acquainted with its characters. First appearing in extremely crude shorts for MTV's Liquid Television programming block, the dim-witted teens became an instant cult favorite, featuring such delinquent topics as quote-unquote frog baseball and porta-potty hijinks at a monster truck rally. The cartoon duo embodied the outsider nature of both Liquid Television and MTV itself. With its off-kilter animation style and exaggerated expressions of heavy metal teenagers, this early MTV hit became the definition of cool.
I don't feel nothing.
Imitated endlessly by high schoolers everywhere and hated by parents across the nation, the hard-rocking pair were truly an overnight sensation. But shockingly, when it came to the creator of Beavis and Butt-Head, cool was the last thing on anyone's mind. Creator Mike Judge said during Beavis and Butt-Head's early production, "It's funny, I used to sit and watch MTV, and it made me feel old and like a complete dork." With his physics degree and a career in mechanical engineering, Mike Judge was just about the last person you would ever expect to unleash something like Beavis and Butt-Head on the world. But after growing disillusioned with a gig as a Silicon Valley scientist, the modern-day Renaissance man eventually fell in love with animation. After creating several homemade shorts and submitting them to animation festivals, a series called The Milton Shorts was picked up by Comedy Central. While this series of shorts would eventually become the feature-length film Office Space, Mike Judge was only a few months away from a life-changing introduction of Beavis and Butt-Head. From the moment viewers heard their first
More shaky hips and thighs.
the Beavis and Butt-Head craze began. Although Judge has often expressed his embarrassment with the quality of early seasons, Beavis and Butt-Head felt like a no-brainer for Gen X couch potatoes from day one. Even among other bizarrely rendered novelties that sprang from Liquid Television, Mike Judge's debut had a singular identity. Where shows like Aeon Flux and The Max were rendered in gorgeous detail, Beavis and Butt-Head was willfully ignorant both in its humor and in style. With animation cells that seemed to squirm and writhe with nervous energy, Beavis and Butt-Head was like nothing else on TV.
Kind of wanted it to be, I wanted it to look like maybe it was made by a deranged person.
Yeah.
I thought maybe there's something kind of interesting about seeing drawings animated that look like they were done by a 15-year-old in his notebook.
With a full stranglehold on Gen X and slacker culture at large, Beavis and Butt-Head became more than just MTV mascots. Voiced to grating and hilarious effect by Mike Judge himself, the very cadence and structure of Beavis and Butt-Head speak became a language of its own. And as unlikely arbiters of musical taste, half of the program was devoted to Beavis and Butt-Head riffing on actual music videos.
I think that the problem with this video is that it is highly derivative of many popular bands within the genre.
But just as the country was getting swept up in Beavis and Butt-Head fever, multiple controversies threatened the very existence of the show. In fact, after a tragic crime involving an adolescent who claimed Beavis and Butt-Head as an influence, the producers were forced to add a disclaimer before each episode. Beavis and Butt-Head are not role models, the message claimed. They're not even human, they're cartoons. Some of the things they do would cause a person to get hurt, expelled, arrested, possibly deported. To put it another way, don't try this at home. Increasingly seen as the forbidden fruit of 90s cable, these controversies only served to extend the Beavis and Butt-Head craze. Eventually, this blend of public notoriety and legitimately hilarious work culminated in a major motion picture, appropriately titled Beavis and Butt-Head Do America. The big screen foray for the dim-witted dorks turned out to be a massive success. With all the familiar exploits and characterizations of Mike Judge on full display, the film felt like watching a master comedian reach their zenith. Rather than doubling down on harder humor for a paying audience, this PG-13 road trip made major bucks on Gen X young adults and fledgling elder millennials alike. And with a seriously far-out psychedelic sequence animated by none none other than horror maestro Rob Zombie, Beavis and Butt-Head Do America merged its hand-drawn roots with incredibly smooth animation. But just as things couldn't be looking better for the show, and at the height of its popularity and financial success, Mike Judge made the baffling decision to end Beavis and Butt-Head.
You think we're ever gonna score?
I probably will, but not you. You're too much of a butt monkey.
Citing creative differences with MTV and outright exhaustion, he insisted that ending the show on a high note was the best conclusion. As Mike Judge helmed his exceptional animated sitcom King of the Hill and directed multiple cult classic live-action features, MTV moved into more reality-based content and a friendlier approach to music video appraisal. When Mike Judge and crew finally returned for a revival series in 2011, Beavis and Butt-Head just didn't resonate in the same way. Between plots that more closely resembled the narrative structure of Do America, sanitized digital animation, and less focus on underground music, this revival only lasted for one short season. Despite ongoing support from die-hard fans and rumors of a new network, the series ultimately fell out of the collective consciousness before it had even ended.
We're popular.
Yeah, that's us.
But when 90s nostalgia came knocking on the doors of modern streaming networks, even the debased antics of Beavis and Butt-Head could not escape the reboot treatment. Judge and his collaborators entered negotiations to fully reboot the series at Comedy Central. But seeing as these were the final days of Comedy Central's reign as a functioning network, a contract was instead inked for a streaming deal on Paramount+. Even though this updated series tried to marry Gen X nostalgia to modern attention spans, the essence of Cornholio was undoubtedly muddied. Without cable, the art of channel surfing becomes lost. And without channel surfing, what exactly are Beavis and Butt-Head supposed to do? Well, in this streaming reboot, the answer is watch TikToks. That's right, much like the dwindling existence of music videos in the real world, modern-day Beavis and Butt-Head have little artistic content to riff on. Instead, the traditional short segments were broken up by commentary on actual influencers. While it might sound funny to see the duo rip into bland Instagram reels and YouTubers, the result was less than ideal.
Good morning, Grayson.
Good morning, Grayson.
They should eat her.
For the core audience of nostalgic Gen Xers, the idea of watching social media streams is comically distant from their own interests. And for Gen Z viewers who often have no clue what a Beavis even is, this format fell completely flat. After just 2 seasons and a direct-to-streaming follow-up film titled Do the Universe, Beavis and Butt-Head once again vanished from our screens. Unlike the brief revival, this reboot did turn more than a few heads with its terrifying addition of a middle-aged version of Beavis and Butt-Head. But despite this novel and sometimes hilarious approach to modernizing characters, nobody really wanted to spend much time with a couple of outdated weirdos. Because even though it may be interesting to catch up with your old delinquent pals, seeing an aged-up version of those teenage dirtbags just feels wrong. As we turn our eyes away from crummy commercials and overblown music videos, we perhaps inadvertently shut the door on those buck-toothed knuckleheads. And while culture at large focuses on influencer vlogs and social media content, characters like Beavis and Butt-Head just don't have as much to say. That's it for this week's episode. So, do you think the Beavis and Butt-Head revival ended too soon? Which music video commentary is most nostalgic for you? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, be sure to hit like and subscribe to keep up with all our Nerdstalgic videos.